I'm your instructor, Dave Semelink from GoDigitalSA Foundation. And today we're looking at Unit 4, Conditionals. Lesson A will be about conditionals in daily life. What we'll learn, conditional statements and how conditionals are used to tell a computer when to do something. So, what is a conditional? And you'll remember we looked at this briefly in Unit 2. So what is a conditional? It's a rule or a condition that must be met in order for an action to be carried out. It's written as an if-then or if-then-else statement. So conditional statements are like, if you clean your room, then you can go out with your friends. If your homework is done, then you can play video games. If you do your chores all week, then you can get your allowance, else you are grounded. Okay, so this is basically it in a diagram. If it's snowing, if yes, then you have to wear boots. If no, that's our else, then we wear our tackies. Okay, are there some conditions that can be evaluated as something other than true or false? Maybe sometimes. No. When we're talking about coding, a condition is always true or false. It's never sometimes. And how might conditional statements be used to give instructions to a computer? Examples, if someone presses the power button, then turn on. If the login box is blank, then tell the user they need to type in their name, else log them in. Okay, so what we've learned, conditional statements, how conditionals are used to tell a computer when to do something. Okay, so in Lesson B, we're going to code the microbit to play rock, paper, scissors, and then we'll assess our learning with a quiz. So rock, paper, scissors. What we'll learn, we're going to learn how to code a game with conditionals, and then we'll review how much we've learned. So you'll remember in the last unit, we played rock, paper, scissors, and we got the microbit to keep the scores. Now we're going to get the microbit to help us to play the game itself. So we need to know, what are the rules of the game? What are the conditionals? You should work in pairs, or you can work on your own to code a rock, paper, scissors game. And we'll start with pseudocode with the instructions in English, and then we can modify the game if we like to add more options. Okay, so remember in rock, paper, scissors, we're pulling out our hands to display either a rock or paper or scissors. If person A does rock and person B does paper, then paper covers rock, so person B wins. If person A chooses paper and person B chooses scissors, then scissors cuts paper, so person B wins. If person A chooses scissors and person B chooses rock, rock breaks scissors, so person B wins. Those are the rules for rock, paper, scissors. So here are our hints. So we're going to use onShake to start the game. So in the microbit, we're going to say onShake, and then we need to do something. We're going to use pick random to choose rock, paper, or scissors. So we're going to use something called pick random, and we tell to pick a random number between 1 and 3. So it's going to pick either 1 or 2 or 3. We don't know what it's going to pick. It's going to pick the number at random. And then we will have a variable called hand that we will set equal to 1, 2, or 3. And then we'll have an if, then else statement to choose if it's rock, paper, or scissors. So we'll create variables a score and b score to keep the scores for the players. On startup, we're going to set them to 0. Okay, so we can see here on start, we're going to set a score to 0 and set b score to 0. We're going to create a variable hand to store the random number. On shake, we set the hand to a random number from 1 to 3. So we saw that on shake, we set hand to pick a random number from 1 to 3. Then if hand is 1, we display paper. So if hand equals 1, then show LEDs, and this will be how we show paper. Else, if hand equals 2, then display rock. So if hand equals 2, then we're going to use that to show rock. else display scissors. Okay, so hand can only be 1, 2, or 3. So if it was 1, we show paper. If it was 2, we show rock. So otherwise, it must be 3, and then we show scissors. Okay, then when button A is pressed, we're going to increase A score by 1. Okay, so if, let's say that you are A and the microbit is B. So if you win a round, then you press button A, and A score is going to be increased by 1. When button B is pressed, you increase B score by 1. So if the microbit is B, when it wins, then when button B is pressed, B score is increased by 1. And remember to add comments to the code and save your code early and often. Okay, so here we've got a comment saying this is what happens when player A wins, this is what happens when player B wins. Okay, so that was keeping score. And if we want to have more options, we can add more rules to it if we like. And to do that, since we only have the two buttons A and B, we can use other inputs like the pins. We can use pins 0, 1, or 2 as inputs as well. Okay, so let's open a browser and start coding. Okay, so we're back in the browser. We're at makecode.microbit.org. We go down to My Projects and we create a new project. And we'll call this Rock, Paper, Scissors. Okay, so we've created our new project. Okay, so you remember in our pseudocode we had hand as a variable, A score, and B score. So we make a variable. The first variable is called hand. Our next variable is A score. Our next variable is B score. Okay, so we've got three variables, A score, B score, and hand. We want to set A score and B score to 0 when we start. So we say set. We put that on start. Let's just make that A score. Go back to variables and set B score to 0. So when we start, A score and B score are set to 0. We're not going to use forever, so I'll remove that. Okay, when we shake, we want the microbit to choose the hand. So we say input on shake. Okay, we want to start by setting hand to a random number. So we go to variables, we say set. We're setting hand. Okay, we need a random number. Where are we going to find a random number? Random numbers are a function of math. So let's go down to math. And we'll go down the list and we see we've got pick random 0 to 10. So we take that, put it in there. So we set hand to pick random. We want a number from 1 to 3. So we change the start to 1 and the end to 3. So pick random will pick a random number between 1 and 3, so it's going to be either 1, 2, or 3. We don't know what number it's going to be. The microbit will pick that number for us. Okay, now we need our conditionals. Conditionals are under logic. We want to say if something, then something else, something else. So we'll put it down here. We want to check to see if hand is equal to 1. Okay, so we have to go to our logic and we're going to compare two numbers. So here we've got something that compares two numbers. So we'll put that in here. And so we want the first number is hand. So we'll pick hand from variables, put it in here. So if hand is equal to, 1. Then we want to display, I think we said paper. So where do we find that? Under basic, we've got show LEDs. So we go here. So if hand is equal to 1, then we show paper. And we said paper could just be a square like that. Okay, so that shows us a piece of paper. Okay, else we want to check to see if hand is equal to 2. So I'm going to add another if here. So we got a comparison here, else if something. So back to logic, comparing, put that in here. Okay, the variable hand again. So if hand is equal to 2, then we want to display rock. So back to basic, show LEDs, put it in here, and we said we'll make the rock like this. Okay, so that's a rock. Okay, and the final one is if hand is equal to 3, but we know that hand can only be equal to 3, so we don't have to check the value of hand. We'll just use else now. We say show LEDs, and we have to show scissors. Okay, we need to draw scissors. It looked something like this. Okay, that's scissors. Okay, so if we look at that now, it's on shake. We set hand to a random number between 1 and 3. So it's going to be 1, 2, or 3. We don't know what it will be. Then we say if hand is equal to 1, then we show paper. If hand is equal to 2, then we show a rock. If hand is equal to 3, we show scissors. So now what's going to happen is that to play the game, you will make the sign for rock, paper, or scissors, and then you'll shake the microbit. So if you show a rock and then it picks a rock, it's a tie. If you show, if you show paper and it shows paper, then it's a tie. If you show paper and it does rock, then paper covers rock, so you won. If you show paper and it shows scissors, then scissors cuts paper, so it won. And so on. Okay, we can test this so far, and we can also save. Remember, you need to save early and often. So it's called rock, paper, scissors. We just click on save, and that saves it to the computer. We can test this. If we shake the microbit, what happens? Okay, the emulator has got a virtual shake button here. So if you're shaking it, we can click on this, and you'll see that it's displayed paper. We didn't know what it was going to display. If we shake it again, now it displays scissors. Shake it again, it shows a rock. Shake it again, paper, rock, scissors, rock, paper, scissors, rock, paper. So you can see that it's random. You don't know what it's going to choose. Okay, next we want to keep score. So we're saying that we will be player A, the microbit is player B. So if we won a round, then we'll press the A button, and that has to increase A score by 1. So we say input, button A pressed. Then we want to set the variable, or we want to change the variable A score. Let's change this to A score by 1. So we'll increase A score by 1. We can also get it to display A just to confirm that we've pressed the right button. So here we'll show icon. No, we'll show LEDs. Sorry. And we'll make the letter A here. Okay, just so that we know that we clicked the button A, and we can clear the screen if we like. Okay, we need to do almost exactly the same thing for button B. So as you remember from the last time, we can duplicate this. It's gray because you can't have two on button A's pressed, but we're changing this to on button B pressed. We're going to change B score by 1. We're going to display the letter B. And then we clear the screen. Okay, we can test this. We click on A, displays A. Click on B, it displays B. Okay, we can't see the score yet. So to see the score, we'll press both A and B at the same time. So our input will be on button A plus B pressed. Now we're not changing any scores. We want to display A. So I can copy this. I duplicate this. We'll show A. And then we're going to show the number, A score. The variable is A score. And then we can pause. For 1 second. Okay, then we want to show a B, so we'll duplicate the B. We'll show the number, and the number is B score. And then we'll pause. For 1 second, and then we'll clear the screen. Okay, and now we can test everything. Shake, it's rock. Okay, so shake, it's paper. If we did scissors, then we win. Shake, scissors. If we did rock, then we win. Shake, it's rock. If we did scissors, then it wins. Okay, and now let's show the scores. We'll click A and B at the same time. A is 2, B is 1. Okay, and we can save the program. And we're all done. We did say we need comments, and so remember to do comments. Right-click on the block, add comment, and here we say on startup, set A and B scores to 0. And here I can add a comment. On shake, choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Display paper if 1, rock if 2, scissors otherwise. Okay, that's a bit long, so we need to make this bigger. And so on. And we just add comments to all of them. Okay. If A wins, click A, to add 1 to score. If B wins, click B to add 1 to score. And finally, press A and B to display the scores. Okay, and we can save that. Okay, let's just try this on the microbit. So I need to plug in the microbit with the USB cable. Okay, I'm going to click on download. And you can see the light flashing, so the program has downloaded. Okay, so what happens? How do we play this game? So I'm going to start by, I will shoot out a hand signal, and then I'll shake the microbit. So I'm going to do scissors, and let's see what the microbit does. Okay, it does scissors, so that's a tie. Okay, I'll do scissors again. And it does paper cut scissors, so I'm going to press A, because I won. And it shows A. Okay. And now I'm going to do rock. This. Shake it. It does scissors, rock breaks scissors, so I win again. Okay, I'm going to do paper. Yeah. Shake it. It does paper, so that's a tie. I'm going to do paper again. It does rock. So paper covers rock, so I win. Okay, so what is the score? I press both buttons A and B. And it shows A is 3, B is 0. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, so we're done with the program, so we can go back to home. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Okay, so let's do a quiz. What's an example of if-then statement? Okay, so we've seen lots of examples. For example, if hand equals 1, then display rock. What's an example of an if-then-else statement? So if hand equals 1, then display rock, else display scissors. Or in the example we did, if hand equals 1, then display rock, else if hand equals 2, then display paper, else display scissors. So you can add more than 2 sections to it. Encoding conditionals tell a computer to do one of the following. Encoding conditionals tell a computer to do which of the following? How to do it faster, when to do it, or where to do it. Okay, so encoding conditionals tell a computer when to do it. And I wouldn't say when. I don't think that's very clear. It's telling it under what conditions to do it. So it's not the time at which it should do it. It says under what conditions it should do something. Write an example of pseudocode for your microbit using conditionals. Okay, we saw that. So on button A, press, choose random number from 0 to 2. If random number equals 0, then display rock icon. Else, if random number equals 1, then display paper icon. Else, display scissors icon. So that's our pseudocode. True or false, a conditional statement must have all the following: if, then, and else. Okay, as we saw, that's false. It only needs an if and then. It does not need an else. You only use an else if you need an else. But it has to have an if and a then. So what we've learned today, we've coded the game with conditionals. Okay, and so for lesson C, you will create an original board game. Okay, so you can do this at home if you like. Create a board game. So create an original board game using conditionals and your microbit. So you need to invent a game. Create an original board game that incorporates conditionals and your microbit to play. You can work together to come up with a set of written rules, how to play, a game board, and a program for the microbit that works in conjunction with the game board and or game pieces. Okay, so very important, you need to invent a game. You're creating a game that you're going to play on a board, and you just want to use the microbit to help you with the game. So here's some ideas. Game rules, write these as a set of conditional statements. If heads, then move 3 spaces, else lose a turn. Okay, so the microbit might simulate the result of a battle between 2 game pieces, or randomly point a player in a different direction of travel, or generate a result based on its current incline, or display a dynamic score. So you can do whatever you like. At its simplest, you can get a microbit to, for example, simulate flipping a coin, where you choose a random number between 1 and 2, and 1 is heads and 2 is tails. You can also get it to simulate dice. When you roll dice, you can get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. So you can get the microbit to choose a random number between 1 and 6, and so on. So that's how you can use the microbit to help you with your game. So here's a space race example. How to win. Starting from Earth, your goal is to progress to Mars. The first person to reach Mars is the winner. The rules is you shake the microbit to randomize how far you get to advance. If you land on a pink square, press B on the microbit until your previous roll number appears. Then press A and B at the same time to see whether or not you moved based upon the number on the square. And you can have up to 4 players. Okay, so you can see this board game. There's the Earth. There's Mars. You're in a rocket. You've got these squares. Most of the squares are yellow. Some of the squares are pink. You've got your 4 pieces. So each player gets their own piece. Everybody starts on Earth. And then you use the microbit you shake the microbit, and it's going to choose a number, and we can pretend it's dice. So it's going to choose a number between 1 and 6. That tells you how many squares ahead you can go. If you land on a yellow square, you do nothing. If you land on a pink square, you might have to go back. This is -2. You might go forward. This is 4. The negative, if you land on this square, it means you have to go back 2 squares. If you land on this square, you can go ahead 4 squares. Okay, and so on. So that's just a game that somebody's invented. They're using the microbit to choose the number of squares ahead that they go. Okay, so make sure your project meets these specifications. All game rules should be clear and complete. Okay, when you write out the rules, they have to be clear, they have to be complete. Nobody can say, well, they didn't know what they were supposed to do. The game board should be complete, neat, and fit the theme of the game. The microbit must be an integral part of the game and the board. So at the very least, it should work like dice, choosing the number of squares ahead that you move. It can also keep score, and you can get it to do whatever you like. The program correctly uses conditionals, compiles, and runs as intended, and includes comments. You can take photos, that includes photos of the game board, code, and captions, and you can provide the written reflection diary entry that includes your brainstorming ideas, construction, programming, and beta testing, which we'll talk about after you complete your project. So what we learned, we created an original board game using conditionals and the microbit. So next time, Unit 5, we'll be talking about iteration. That's all for today, so I'll see you next time.